Alrighty, this is day 9 of this Vauxhall Vivaro camper van conversion, and what we're going to do today is make the ceiling. Now there's quite a bit of calculation to go on there, so I'm going to nip out into the van, measure everything up and say exactly what we need. Okay, now just one thing, I've managed to get the trims on the windows, so they've got the knock-on trim on, and I've finished the rest of the carpeting. We've got these inlays here, just around the cab and the little piece along the bulkhead step. So the carpeting is complete at this point. As I say, what we want to do is make a ceiling for this, and to make that ceiling I'm going to sketch it out first, put the measurements on, then we'll get back in the workshop and make it. And the first measurement we want is just between these plywood trims, so we'll see exactly what that is, and that is 1 meter 10. Jolly good. And we want the length of that from inside the trims, so that is 207. Now we want to overlap that to some degree, and we'll work that out in a moment. But what we want also is at what intervals do these battens occur. I want to take a measurement from the front of the ply trim here to this batten, and then to every successive batten right the way along to the back. Now we want to know where the lights are, and again from here that one is 40, and in from the side of that it is 22 centimeters. Done all of this out very roughly on this pad. I'm going to go in the workshop and then calculate exactly how big we need to make the ceiling to overlap this a little bit, and so that we can put reinforcements in so that we hit the battens when we come to put the screws in. Now I'm going to make the ceiling with this pine cladding, and I believe on the box it does say that this is 94 wide, but it is tongue and groove, so the finished face of it is actually 88 centimeters. And what we want to know is how many of those do we want to fill this space here. So if we say we've got 1100 divided by 88, it says 12.5. Now we do want an overlap on either side here, so if we say 13 of those times 88, that gives us 1144. So that would give us a 2.2 centimeter overlap on either side of that, and that seems sufficient. Now also for the length of this, we just add the same amount back onto that, so we're going to add 44 onto this 2070, and that gives us 2114. So first thing we want is 13 of strips of this cladding cut at 2114, 13 of them. Now the other things that we need is some cross battens which will fix all of this together. We want 6 pieces of cladding at just under this length here, so we want 6 at 1050, and then we've got a couple of centimeters wiggle room either side. That seems reasonable, so I'm going to cut 6 at 1050 and I'm going to cut 13 at 2114. So we have 6 of these at 1050, and I've just checked them in the van and that is correct. And I've cut one of these at the 2114. I've checked that in the van and that's correct, and I've also marked on it here exactly where the battens are and indicated the front, so we know exactly what we're doing with this. I just wanted to check all of that before cutting all of this wood up, but that is correct. Happy with that. I'm going to cut 13 of these. Okay, we have 13 of these cut. We have this one here, and this is going to be the first one, so I'm going to whip the tongue off that at this point, and then we'll start sticking this ceiling together. Okay, just one more calculation to do here before we start putting this together. These are the cross struts. What I'm going to do is essentially glue them and staple them to the main ceiling itself, but we want to know how far in from the edge of the ceiling to start that batten. So we want to be 4.7 centimeters in from the edge and that would start there. And obviously I'll centre these. I've marked here the centres of the battens in the van, and we'll centre those, square them up and get them on there like that. Just slid 3 of these together. Obviously make sure they're flush with each other on either side, which they are. Now I'm going to put this just there. I'll make a mark here and I'll make a mark there, and then what I want to do is just square that line. That tells us that we can put this like this, glue it, tack it in, and do the same for the other 5. Alright, so with all of those marked out, it's time to get started. So I'm going to put some glue on these, and there it is. And then we'll take the first one of these cross struts, line that up, make sure it's square, some brads in there to hold it until the glue dries. And also important to try to pull this up as far as you can when putting each one in. Okay, so we have all of these in position, all ready to go. First 2 slats on. Now what I'm going to do is just continue to push these in as we go until we've got them all done. Now I'm just going to line that up. I'm going to put a mark just here as a guide for the gluing, because what we'll need to do is offset that a bit, glue here, and then slide it back under. And there it is. Having got that done, next thing we want to do with it is actually flip it over so we can mark out where the lights go. Looking good. Now this is the front of the van, and we have to obviously consider that it goes this way up when we're marking out for these lights, otherwise we could get them in the wrong place. Alright, so to mark out for the lights, we know that this is the front and the lights were 40 down, but we also have an overlap here of 2.5, so we have 42.5. I shall make a mark. So that there is where the first light is going. And we'll just do this on the other side, middle ones, and then the back one is a little bit offset. Alright, that's all of those marked out. This one is inset a bit because this is the part of the ceiling. You see, if we flip that over like that, put it towards the front of the van, the tall cupboard's here, so this one is cut slightly differently. So each of the corners will just be rounded. Just one more thing to do with this before we sand it and lacquer it is I want to put the screw holes in so that when I come to put it in the van, it's going to be very easy just to put the screw in and it'll hold. So I've marked where the battens are underneath here, which will coincide with the ceiling battens, and the idea is I'm just going to drill a couple of holes in every other one, countersink them, and then that will be absolutely solid once it gets up in the van. Okay, and with all those holes drilled, the next thing to do is just give it a good sand down. I'll tidy these edges up, put a little radius on them, take any pencil marks off, and then we're ready for the lacquer. Okay, everything done with the ceiling. Radius the corners, I've put the light holes in, I've put screw holes in so we can easily get it into the van when it comes to that. So the very last thing to do with it is give it a nice coat of lacquer. This is a bar top lacquer, very strong and really good stuff. And I'll probably give this maybe 2, maybe 3 coats of this. We'll see how that goes. Alrighty, this has now had a couple of coats of lacquer and it's nicely dried. So I'm just going to knock any burrs off with this very fine sandpaper, and then we'll look at getting this in the van. Okay, got the ceiling in the van. Now what I'm going to attempt to do is get it up against the ceiling, get a couple of props in, and then square it up. So, wish me luck. Right, so far so good. It does have to move around a little bit, but we'll get there. Right, I'm seeing we've got position is good here. I put one screw in just to hold it so we can pivot it if we need to. And what I'm going to do next is pull the lighting cables through. Okay, we've got the cables through and the holes were in the right place. This is good. So now I'm just going to start screwing this into these countersunk holes that we put in the workshop, and they should screw straight through into the battens of the van. Alrighty, nearly there. We've got the majority of the screws in here. Let's put another couple in here before I take this pole out. Take the poles out at this point and just continue putting the screws in, essentially. And there it is, the ceiling is in, and I think that's looking pretty good. Now, my next task is to get the vinyl floor down on here, and before we do that, again, we want to give this floor a very good clean, get all the dust off it, sawdust. I may hoover it as well and make it absolutely spotless. Then we'll attempt the vinyl flooring. Now with this, if you remember, we did cut this almost to size when it was in the workshop. So the idea is to get this out, flatten it all down, trim it into position accurately, and then stick it down. Okay, now what I've done with this is I've put a mark in the centre of the van here at the front, another one at the back, just so we can get the lines of this vinyl running parallel in the van. Right, first I'm going to use that to push that in there, like that, and then I'm going to put the rule up against it, and then I'm going to cut that, and hopefully we'll get a nice straight line. Okay, I've majorly got this down. It's trimmed around the wheel arches quite tightly, quite nicely, all the way down the sides. I've done all of the shaping at this point, so the next thing to do with this is to start sticking it down. So I'm going to take the front piece back up, maybe about a third of it. I'll put spray adhesive on the floor, spray adhesive on the lino. We'll get that down nice and flat, and then I think I'll roll it up from the back and do it a bit at a time right the way down the van. So this first piece first. Okay, that's well covered with the glue. Now the idea is to try to get this down without any ripples. So we'll start in the centre and we'll just walk it down. So far so good. So for the next section of this, I've rolled the back of it up. I'll do another third about down to the wheel arches, and then we'll spread it out to the back of the van. Okay, that's the next bit done. Now we've just got, let me show you, we've got this bit here to finish off. So I'm going to unfurl this way. I'll put the adhesive on the floor, put the adhesive on here, roll it back out. Okay, the vinyl floor is in. Got a little bit of a crease over there, but I don't think it's anything to worry about. I'll probably be able to roll that out or something. The rest of it's in. Went in fairly straightforwardly, fairly easily. Just got to be very careful when trimming it, obviously. But there it is. So we have the ceiling in, and we have the floor in. So that brings us to the end of day 9. Now, if you've enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. And if you would like to see exactly how this van turns out, do subscribe to the channel. There's more videos to come here. Next time I think we're going to be making these cabinets for this side of the van. I will get started on them anyhow. So in the meantime, I thank you very much for watching.